Okay, this is Rudy Trevino in the 3 Newsroom. We are awaiting the arrival of Vice President Mike Pence. He should be arriving at the Corpus Christi International Airport. His plane has touched down. Air Force 2 has touched down. He is at the Corpus Christi International Airport. We have Kristen Diaz standing by live at the airport right now to give us an update on how things are out there. Kristen.
Hi, Rudy. Yeah, we are standing right in the parking lot in the signature air zone. This is usually where private planes usually come out to park. And also, if you're familiar with where the enterprise parking is, this is where we're located. We are taking a direct look to the same location where President Trump arrived in Air Force One just days ago. So this is now Air Force Two landing in a very similar fashion. Now, what we have noticed that's a little bit different compared to just days ago when the president came to visit the coastal bend is the people. The people are missing. It's just media out here. We have also seen out on the tarmac, right where the stairs are for the plane, there's a group of people there, and that is what looks to be Governor Greg Abbott and his team, as well as Congressman Blake Farenthold and his team, and some other politicians and dignitaries here for Texas. So we are looking forward to hearing their reaction today as they're awaiting Vice President Mike Pence. But as I said, not so much of a crowd as there was just days ago. It's been pretty quiet out here. We haven't quite seen anybody who's been eager to get a first glimpse of the vice president. As we're taking a look right now, probably on your screen, you can see Air Force Two driving up to the airport, coming off the tarmac. And as it approaches the scene, as I mentioned, there's that group of people that are right underneath the stairs that will be valeted to the plane. To the left of me, I'm seeing already the caravan. This is the motorcade for Vice President Pence, as he is expected to be making his way around the coastal bend to see the hardest hit areas post Hurricane Harvey. So to my left, you can see the line of black SUVs. We have law officials, law enforcement, making sure that everyone is keeping their distance for safety. And there it is. There is Air Force Two making its arrival here to the Corpus Christi International Airport. It is quite a sight to be seen, but again, we're not seeing too many spectators. I do see to the right of me a couple of people that are close to the airport by the building that are trying to get a glimpse. I see a young boy sitting on a gentleman's shoulders trying to get a good view. It's not the easiest when you're standing on the ground because, for one, you have all the rental cars that are in front of you, and then right behind that you have city buses that are lined up for protection. That is what I've been told by law enforcement here, that the city buses were lined up for protection just as they were lined up there for protection when Air Force One landed. So here it is, quite a massive plane. Beautiful though in its white and blue, and we are seeing it now turn. You can see there, right there, United States of America with the U.S. flag on the tail, slowly coming in. We are seeing snipers on the roof of this small brown building as it is approaching. So there is plenty of law enforcement in the area. We've seen law enforcement from the airport, of course, federal law enforcement as well as our local CCPD. They've been working hard on the job. And it's kind of hot out here. Rudy, we've been out here for a few minutes now. The expected arrival time was supposed to be at 10:50, so he is a little delayed getting here to Corpus Christi International Airport, but thankfully we have nice weather to welcome him so that he can hopefully get a good look at the destruction and devastation that so many coastal bend residents are having to deal post Hurricane Harvey. But there it is, coming to a stop now. And from my view, I can't quite see what is going on at ground level, Rudy?
We're noticing that as reporters, we want to get the best coverage, the best view that we can from the vantage point that we have. We are quite a distance from the actual plane itself as we see it taxiing into place there and already setting down, getting ready to have the ladder brought up to the side of the plane so that the vice president rather, and his entourage, which we understand includes former Texas Governor Rick Perry, who is now Secretary of Energy, along with other heads of the administration there. We understand that there'll be a couple of other secretaries representing other administrative departments within the top government that will be with him, or that are with him on Air Force Two. We can see the door to one part of the plane there opening. Perhaps we'll be seeing the Vice President step down in just a couple of minutes. And although this has been somewhat of a guarded secret, as you can pretty much imagine for the time being, because it was embargoed to the media not to release any information until just recently. But it's all over Facebook now, all over social media, that the Vice President has landed. He is here. He is going to be making a trek via motorcade, not on a helicopter, not a chopper of any kind, but a motorcade from Corpus Christi International Airport to the areas of devastation, those areas hardest hit, like Aransas Pass, Rockport, and the like. The motorcade will be traveling, we're assuming at this point, although it's not been laid out for us. We do know that people are lining up along the Portland area, and all the way up to the Rockport area. We had people that are pulled over to the side. I know the police in the Portland area asking people not to park along the highway or along the frontage roads to get a glimpse of the motorcade. So if you can please abide by that, for sure. That is for, of course, security reasons. But we do know that the Vice President will be making his way to those areas that I just mentioned, Aransas Pass, Portland, Rockport, hardest hit. I understand he will be meeting with some local folks there in the Rockport area. We're imagining he'll be taking a tour of the area that's been hardest hit, and perhaps even meeting with some of the residents who have been displaced by this horrific tragedy that has occurred here in South Texas, affecting so many thousands and thousands of people. We see the back door of Air Force Two opening. We're hoping that we can get a glimpse of the Vice President as he steps out, if he steps out through the rear entrance of the plane. Kristen Diaz, what's the atmosphere like out there? You mentioned there was a child on a dad's shoulders there, hoping to get a glimpse of the Vice President.
Yeah, exactly, Rudy. There are still a lot of people who want to see this firsthand, and so I'm not quite sure if these folks are coming from all over the coastal bend and just making their way to see this, or if they're coming from the international airport, as we do know that some of the flights have resumed. So I'm not quite sure if they're passengers coming from a flight, but they are kind of congregated here on that exit way when you go to pick up a passenger and you make your exit away from the airport. That's kind of where they're congregating, but people just moving around, taking pictures. It's very quiet in comparison to what it was just a couple days ago when I was here for the arrival of President Trump. At that point, that's when we saw a lot of people out here, almost fanatics. They were super excited to see who they had voted into office make his way over here to the coastal bend. So that was for them, an exciting moment. The people that we're seeing right now are very quiet. I don't see them talking much. They're just kind of in awe of the ginormous plane that we have here on Air Force Two. We are starting to see some people start to de-escalate these stairs coming from the plane. Yeah,
from my experience, I know the people leaving the rear of the plane are mostly media and support staff. The Vice President should be exiting the plane in just a couple of minutes. If all it goes as planned, we'll see him exiting from the front exit of the plane there in just a couple of moments. Sadly, we can't zoom in any further than that to get a closer look, but we can see the members of the staff. I think that's Rick Perry there on the left as he exits going down the stairs right now. But we really can't tell if that was Vice President among that first crowd that exited the plane. But we'll have that video for you, of course, later on tonight on 3 News at 5, 6, and 10 tonight. We'll also be covering his visit to the areas that have been affected by Hurricane Harvey, Aransas Pass, Ingleside, Rockport, maybe even Port Aransas, although we don't have the exact detail of his visit. What you have just witnessed is the arrival of Vice President Mike Pence to Corpus Christi International Airport as he makes his way to the areas that have been affected. We've got Kristen Diaz standing by live at the airport right now, giving us details of what she's seeing from her vantage point. Kristen?
Again, Rudy, from to my left, I am still seeing law enforcement. DPS has a chopper out here that is just hovering over the tarmac and keeping things very safe and clear for Vice President as he descends from the plane. And again, from my vantage point, I also cannot quite see who has exited the plane, but we have seen several people already make their way down. And again, what we did see prior to the plane's arrival was a group of folks here from Texas, to include Congressman Blake Farenthold, and also, I think this is him right now. That might be actually Vice President Mike Pence.
Not much fanfare when the media is embargoed not to release any information prior to his arrival. So that's to be expected, although he's not coming here to get the fanfare. He's coming here to actually visit the areas that have been affected. So not to expect a whole lot of folks out there at the airport. Now, that might not be the case as he makes his way to Rockport and Aransas Pass and the areas that he plans to visit. Not so, because by then most of the folks and supporters of the Trump administration will have found out and will know, or anyone that wants to see get a glimpse of one of our leaders of our nation making his way to visit the areas that have been hit the hardest. Kristen, we will have more coverage continuing throughout the afternoon on the vice presidential visit, along with all the other cabinet members who have joined the vice president in this visit to get a first-hand look at the extent of the devastation here in our area, how long it's going to take, perhaps give us an idea of how much more help will be coming our way in the days and weeks, even months to come. Kristen, I can tell that they're now boarding some vans. You said there were some black SUVs, as there is customary when these high political leaders come to our area. Is that correct? Is that what you're seeing?
Yes, definitely so. It looks, my block is viewed, but it does look like more people from the airport. Hi, how are you? Are you coming to see, look at the plane? Yes. Oh, wonderful. What do you think? It's wonderful. We like it. I was a Southwest employee that just came out. I actually see her all the time when I travel out. So a lot of people from the airport coming out to see this, and they've got big old smiles on their faces. A pretty neat sight. Although I will tell you what's missing from this visit versus when President Trump was here a couple days ago, Rudy, is that I'm not seeing the Air Force planes, the two gray Air Force planes following this plane, Air Force Two, as it was following President Trump. So that is also missing from the scene in comparison to what we saw just a couple of days ago. But nonetheless, I actually spoke with some local law enforcement here. Corpus Christi police officer told me that he felt that the preparation for Vice President Mike Pence's arrival was actually a little bit more than for Trump. Now, of course, it's probably not the case, but he said that this morning there was a little commotion and just trying to get things together and wanting to make sure that everything was perfect for the arrival. And so there was a little bit more practice involved this morning in getting things lined up. But everyone seemed to be in place, ready to go. I could kind of overhear some of them talking about already preparing to follow the motorcade as soon as he gets out, and kind of holding us media back so that there's not a crowd to follow him immediately. So I know that they are preparing. We did see one officer just pull up on his motorcycle and is trying to make sure that everything is good to go for the police officers that have been waiting here where the media is. But again, it is a hot summer day and not seeing too many people versus the other day when Mr. Trump came in here at the airport. Even the little boy that I said I could see on my right-hand side, he's covering his eyes. It's super bright out here. The sun is out and shining. And if you don't have sunglasses, your eyes will get tired trying to squint over to the airplane.
Now, the folks you see running there, we're assuming are members of the media, the press corps that follows the vice president wherever he goes. National media, international media that are always with him when he travels to places such as this and abroad. They follow him. They're assigned to the vice president and are able to travel with him in Air Force Two wherever it is that they go as members of the media that represent whatever outlets they're with. That means that when you see that happening and you see them trotting to their vehicles, that the entourage is about to leave. and get underway. So we see a Corpus Christi Police Department vehicle as the lead vehicle, and then we have a DPS vehicle immediately right behind after that. Now we understand that he will be making his way from the international airport, perhaps of course over the bridge, over the harbor bridge, through the causeway into Portland and on to the points that have been affected by this, unless there is a different trek which could take him to the island first into Port A, but we're not quite sure if Port A is part of the itinerary. Although we were kept in the dark, we didn't find out about this trip from the Vice President until overnight sometime. I think it was at 3 or 4 o'clock this morning when this first notice came out that he was going to be making his trip to Corpus Christi. And it looks like the motorcade is leaving the tarmac at Corpus Christi International Airport. We're assuming that is the vice presidential vehicle there, in which Vice President Mike Pence, and it looks like his wife is also came with him, perhaps even in the second vehicle there, as they make their way into Corpus Christi and then on to Portland, Aransas Pass, Ingleside, Rockport. And they'll be passing right in front of you, won't they, there, Kristen?
I'm with Channel 3. I'm live on the air.
Okay, she's obviously speaking with someone there. As we can see them making their way out of the private hangar where he arrived, where Air Force One arrived just moments ago at the airport. There's a long line of entourage that will be traveling with the Vice President, as normally does when they're out and about covering events and tragedies such as this one. We can see them making their way around. If anyone who's been at the Corpus Christi International Airport, you know there's a kind of a little area that you need to go around through the airport and then back out to get to crosstown and then back into town. We'll be able to see them here in just a couple of minutes as they probably pass through right in front of our vantage point as they leave the airport. Kristen, they'll be passing right in front of you, won't they?
Hey, Rudy, yes, they are now exiting the tarmac. You can see them car by car, SUV by SUV. They are now being escorted by Corpus Christi Police Department. I just saw about 6, from what it looked like here, about 6 officers on motorcycle, now seeing Corpus Christi Police Department in their cars, and now starting to see state troopers and also those black SUVs, a part of the motorcade for the Vice President. So they're now coming at a standstill, slowing down a little bit. Again, this is that exit street from that you kind of take when you come in. It's kind of that little loop around. They're got a short distance before they exit to get back onto Highway 44. But I did find somebody here.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rudy.
There you go. Go ahead. You've got someone who was there as a witness?
Yeah,
viewer,
so that
spectator?
little boy that was trying to get a good glimpse of Vice President Mike Pence. What's your name?
Dayton.
Dayton, were you able to get a good look?
Yes.
What did it look like?
Good.
It looked good? It's bright and sunny out here. David, you brought your grandson, was it?
Ma'am, my grandson.
And why did you bring him out here today?
I wanted him to see. I wanted to bring him yesterday and see Donald.
There's our camera right there, if you can see him.
I was going to bring him out here yesterday.
Can you walk over here?
And see our President Donald Trump.
Come on.
I don't want to get shot because they got sharpshooters.
No, you're fine.
Yeah. If we couldn't see our president, we won't see our vice president, because we've got the best president, vice president this country has ever seen and ever will see.
Were you able to get a close-up view of President Trump when he arrived?
No, we sure didn't, but I wish I could sit down and talk with him.
How were you affected by Hurricane Harvey?
We got very little rain out of it and a few broken limbs, and we were lucky. We were some of the lucky ones.
What are you looking forward to from this visit from Vice President Mike Pence?
Just them to say what they've been saying. They've had such good preparations, and I mean, it's just remarkable. They've had everything set up, and they're doing a wonderful job.
When the president came through, he was only here for about 2 hours. The vice president is expected to spend the day here, at least the afternoon. What do you look forward to most out of that visit?
I'd like to be able to sit down with Mike and talk to him, but I look.
What would you say to him?
What would I say? I would grab his hand, shake him, and I would tell him that he's got a wonderful family. Donald John Trump has got a wonderful, his family. I didn't know much about him until the RNC, and after I watched the RNC, He had
you
all my
call him?
love, respect, and dignity that a man could ever get. I thought Donald Trump was just a rich man. He is a father, he is a grandfather, and he is our president. He's my president. I have rooted for him since day one, and I love him.
And so you said just a few broken limbs at your home.
Yes, ma'am.
What about your neighbors? What town do you live in? Are you here in Corpus Christi?
Flower
In
Bluff.
Flower Bluff.
Yes, ma'am. We sustained very little damage. We were some of the very lucky people. But we had high winds, probably up to 100 miles an hour. But like I say, we were some of the lucky ones. Our neighbors in Port Aransas, them poor guys, they just wiped out. If we had money to give them, we would give them money. But we're broke, as usual.
Well, Dayton, what did you think about Hurricane Harvey?
Remember we went riding around in it?
Yeah.
Did you know about the storm before it hit?
No.
Yes, you did.
Well, we're glad you guys are safe. Thank you so much for speaking
you.
with us. It was a pleasure.
ma'am.
And I hope that you do get to see the Vice President a little bit closer up, as he will be around town
Donald
later
Trump
today.
will be around for another 7 years.
You got it. Thank you so much. All right, Rudy, back to you.
Hey, Kristen, we know that you've been out there for quite a while. You covered the presidential visit earlier this week. A stark comparison, right? Very different from the presidential visit versus the vice presidential visit. Did you notice that?
It was a lot quieter. The media was practically alone here on the arrival for Vice President Mike Pence. Like I mentioned,
Okay.
there were just
Okay.
a couple of people, maybe 20 at most. Go ahead, Rudy.
All right, thank you, Kristen, for that. We're told that Michael Gibson is standing by live in Rockport right now, where the Vice President is expected to arrive here within the next hour or so, perhaps after he visits some of the other locations on the way to Rockport.
Okay, I got
Michael, how
ID
you
now.
doing? How are you? What's going on there?
Hi, Rudy. We're at the First Baptist Church here in Rockport. We've got a crowd of about 75 to 100 people waiting on Vice President Pence to show up. And a lot of security, a lot of people checking everybody, making sure everybody's good, and not sure exactly when the Vice President's going to arrive. But as you can see, a lot of people still walking around getting into place. They have us right here in front of this heavily damaged part of the church, which faces northeast, which was the direction that Harvey ended up coming through at its strongest point. This is just about 8 or 10 blocks north of the county detention center, so it's along Live Oak. And again, the Vice President is supposed to come here for an impromptu prayer service outside here, outside this church, of course, heavily damaged as well. And everybody
Michael, what are people
here
there
waiting
saying?
to hear what the Vice President might have to say.
Have you had a chance to talk to any of those folks? What are they saying about his visit today?
Rudy, right now we've been so busy just trying to get our equipment checked and together and trying to get on live that this is the first you're getting of it as soon as we hooked up and started going live. So we haven't really been able to talk with some people, but I have a woman right here that
There you go.
why did you come out this morning?
I wanted to be a part of seeing our Vice President, and spend some time praying and thanking God for what we have.
What do you think about what Harvey has ended up doing, not only here, but in Houston, moving on to Louisiana? Just is still a huge flood in Houston event going on. It's just
Yes,
terrible.
sir. Yes, sir. Our prayers and thoughts are with them as we try to put things back together again, as they are trying to do so as well.
How do you think about the response from the government? Some people said that maybe they should have had some of our Army troops in place in places like San Antonio and ready to move in quickly. But in Houston, it's hard to tell where you're going to move in at because it's just all devastated, it looks like.
Yeah, I think people are doing the best they can do. And that's why we're together, trying to come together and ask God to bless our country and our towns and our people.
All right, well, thank you very much. I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
And we're going to toss it back to the studios, Rudy.
Thank you, Mike. As we hear the congregation there practicing Amazing Grace, perhaps an hour away from the arrival of Vice President Michael Pence. along with other members of the administration who will be touring the area of devastation in the Rockport area. We will, of course, continue with our coverage on the vice presidential visit, along with other breaking news stories happening today on 3 News at 5, 6, and 10. We will see you then.